Welcome back, everyone. Great to be here with you. Can't wait to get into today's house calls, the weekend edition of the Cabral Concept. This is where we answer anywhere from 5 to 6 questions from the community every Saturday and every Sunday live on the show. Hopefully you catch the debuts on the weekends when they come out. But either way, all podcasts are always archived at stephencabral.com/podcasts. So you can search any topic you'd like. There's over 2,800 podcasts. Today's episode 2857. So if you want to follow along with today's questions, you're welcome to, right at stephencabral.com/2857. And if you haven't already picked up your copy of The Rain Barrel Effect, go ahead and do that. It is completely free. I pay now for the printing of that book. Yes, you can purchase it on Amazon at full price. You're welcome to do that, but it's free over at stephencabral.com. You can go to stephencabral.com/freebook, and it is there. I just simply ask that you pay for shipping and handling. That's it. I pay for the cost of the book. You just pay for the shipping, and away we go. All right, let's get into the first question today. So all things health, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, you name it, we're going to tackle the topic. Of course, no medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, medical diagnosis can be given, but what we do is we go one step further. We like to look at what are the underlying root causes that may be ailing someone, and if we were to go to rebalance the body, well, then the body becomes healthy, and a healthy body can't become sick. That's what we always say, and it is the truth. So let's get right into it. First question's from Anonymous, and it says, "Hi, Dr. C. I live in Europe, so it's difficult to get your daily nutritional support powder because of the expensive shipping. So my smoothies are full of berries and apples and bananas and avocado, steamed or cooked veggies, and herbs and spices. I don't add any extra protein powders. Hopefully the veggies, especially peas, provide enough. But lately I've been more into oatmeal and blueberries and raspberries, a mashed banana, and some bee pollen, and steamed apple. Sometimes papaya gets in there too. And then I add a lot of hemp seeds, 3 tablespoons of it. Is that too much? And is it enough in terms of protein intake? I have a huge bowl, mostly fruit and hemp seeds in the oatmeal. I don't think that breakfast keeps me full enough for long. Neither does a smoothie. And after I get hungry, it's so fast that I start shaking and need to eat something straight away. I even got hot flashes and dizzy 2 weeks ago instead of just getting hungry. What am I doing wrong and how could I correct it? I guess it also has something to do with me not eating breakfast soon after I wake up. I drink a little lemon water, and then I do some tinctures. All right, I got it. I understand where you're coming from. I totally get it. Okay, so the daily nutritional support isn't all the fruits and the berries and all those good things. We have a product called the Daily Fruit and Vegetable Blend that's 22 organic fruits, vegetables, and superfoods, and that's without all the calories and all the sugar and all that good stuff. That's different. Daily nutritional support is actually 15 grams of plant-based protein plus a full activated multivitamin, detox cofactors, and so much more. It's about 12 nutritional supplements in one. So it's an all-in-one product. That's just called the Daily Nutritional Support Powder by Equilife. Of course, you can find all these products at stephencabral.com/shop if you want to poke around and see what it is we use in our practice. But let's get back to what you are doing. So I believe one of the big issues here is that you are eating a predominantly carbohydrate and a little bit of fat, just a little bit in the breakfast. And you may be someone that drops a little bit lower into blood sugar, or you go hypo or hyperglycemia, so higher blood sugar, and then you drop back into low. I've done a lot of podcasts lately talking about if you don't feel satiated a half hour after a meal or so, it's typically a lack of fiber and or a lack of protein. Now, you're getting plenty of fiber, but what you very well may be lacking is the protein. Because even if you add peas and all those things into your shake, it's not actually high in protein. Sure, like again, I'm not against plant-based proteins at all. Obviously, the daily nutritional support is pea and rice-based protein, predominantly pea. But it's an extract. I mean, they're extracts. So you're not actually eating the peas themselves. You're taking the protein, the amino acids from that. So I just think that you just may need more protein with your breakfast. So you don't have to use the daily nutritional support, but I would at least get a protein powder then to mix in your smoothie and or your oatmeal. And if you think the oatmeal satiates you a little bit more, I don't disagree. It does for me as well. You could put protein powder in your oatmeal or just shake up protein powder with some water on the side and eat the oatmeal with the berries and the flax seeds and all of that. You're welcome to. So nothing wrong with that. I just think that you need to get in a little bit more protein at breakfast in order to stay satiated. How much protein? probably 20 grams total. I think like that's going to be totally fine for you. But you can also look at the ratios, how many carbs you're eating with that. So maybe 20, 25 grams and you might feel pretty good. And then you also want to look at, well, why might you be bouncing into high and low blood sugar? And you might want to look at the adrenal function as well, like a lab called the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Okay. And that can be done right at home. Thank you for writing in. Appreciate you. All right, Anonymous is up next. Hello, I've been listening to your podcast and wondering, what is the best way to eat fruit and when? I find it a little bit confusing. Should it be before anything else, or does that spike your blood sugar? If protein should be a part of every meal, but fruit is eaten on its own, does it make sense? Question mark. In a smoothie, it can be mixed with everything else, but what if you just enjoy eating a lot of fruit on its own? What time of the day? When? Considering other meals, etc. Thank you. Okay, understood as well. Potentially, maybe the person who just wrote in as anonymous. So I have lots of podcasts on this, and that's why I always recommend, whenever possible, ask that question, same day answers at cabralsupportgroup.com. And the reason is that you wrote in about 8 weeks ago, and I just want you to make sure that you get questions right away. So I have 2 podcasts on food combining, and I talk about when fruit is best eaten. So you can eat fruit on its own, in a smoothie where everything is blended so it's easy to digest. There's no real digestion that needs to take place there, not a whole lot, or 30 minutes before a meal. So just kind of giving you the quick answer, but I would definitely listen to the food combining podcast that I've done. So then you might say to yourself, well, won't that spike blood sugar to a degree? Well, to a degree, right? And it depends on the individual. So I can eat a banana first thing in the morning and I don't get a blood sugar spike. Now, some people do, right? So it depends on the individual. The more of a Vata body type you are, the more of a fast metabolizer you are, not always, but typically it won't spike blood sugar to the same degree. And also there's a lot of nuances around blood sugar. People are, if you would go by Instagram alone, they're terrified to ever have their blood sugar rise. No, you should not be terrified to ever have your blood sugar rise. It's terrifying only if the blood sugar does not come down within 2 hours to 3 hours maximum after a meal. That's the issue. Okay. Now, you would say, well, if you want less of a blood sugar spike, you would eat your fruit after the meal. Okay. So no health organization, Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, anything has ever recommended fruit after the meal. And that's because it's fermentable. It's supposed to move through quickly and break down. And yes, you won't get the same blood sugar spike, but what you will see is hours then of increased blood sugar. So you might not get the spike above 130, 140, but instead you see for 6 hours in many clients that I've seen in my practice, the blood sugar stays elevated. Well, that's not good either. I'd much rather having a little assault on the body 2 to 3 times a day, and then the blood sugar is right back down within 2 hours. So that's what I'm looking for. So I simply do not want blood sugar spiked for the whole day, right? That's what I'm looking at. So fruit, as also keep in mind, is an energy-based food. It's best had in the morning. Okay. You're coming off of no food for 12 plus hours. And also it's great before exercise or post exercise, depending on your goals. All right. All right. Alexander's up next. Hi, Dr. Brawl. I'm an IHP level 2 and very grateful for all the work you've done and the information you provided. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate that. I've had a lot of Equal Life lab testing done. I came back with high metals, mercury and aluminum were elevated. I've gone through a heavy metal detox and actively continuing to detox through sauna and Epsom salt baths. My concern is that as a 28-year-old female, I've had very bad pelvic pain and used to occur only before menstruation. It now occurs at other times of the month and has become quite limiting. I've been referred to a gynecologist surgeon who would like me to have exploratory surgery to address possible endometriosis. I know there must be a natural way to address the root cause of this. I prefer to avoid surgery. I would love any recommendations you have. Well, that's the issue. I think surgeons are brilliant. They're obviously do an amazing job in this world. But if you go to a surgeon, what does a surgeon do? Surgery. Right? If you hang around in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. You got to be careful, right? So if this was my wife, my daughter asking me this question with these same issues, here's what I would do. I would say surgery is always going to be available to you. I can't give you medical advice, but again, if it was my daughter or my wife, I'd say, let's try everything else first, because you can't take back surgery, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to run at minimum, you already did the minerals and metals test. Great. So then we're going to run the Candida metabolic and vitamins test. and we're going to run the stress, mood, and metabolism test. If you can only run one, it's going to be the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Now, if you're not able to run the inflammation test, at the very least then, we're going to start taking 2 omega-3, daily omega-3 soft gels a day. All right. So we want to just help with the omega-6 to omega-3 inflammation. Then we want to look at the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Just say, do we have elevated glucose? Do we have elevated cortisol? Do we have lower levels of progesterone to estrogen? Do we have elevated cortisol? Do we have elevated testosterone? That's the way that you're going to find out what needs to be rebalanced. That is the future of medicine, and it's here today. I mean, it really is. Like, there's no hype around that. This is how people heal. Because if I would just be like, oh, you might want to try estrogen balance. You may want to try progesterone support. You may want to try a 21-day detox. Sure. Like, all of those things could very well be what you need. Adrenal soothe, magnesium, like, no doubt about it. But I would rather give you precisely what you need if you were to run something like the stress, mood, and metabolism test. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful. And obviously, if you run that with an integrative health practitioner level 2 or one of our Equal Life team members, you're going to get the personalized plan that you also deserve. Oh, and you're a level 2. Well, there you go. I just reread that. So you can even do it yourself, which is amazing. But you know this. You want to personalize it for you. All right. Colleen's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for taking the time to answer these questions. Every time you do, it helps me in some way, no matter what the subject. And I'm sure the same is true for many others as well. I'm happy to hear that, Colleen. That is the goal. And I always do say that. Tune in on the weekends, not just for you, but for a family member, for a loved one, for a coworker. You might be able just to refer them to that show. And I think that could be helpful. All right. I had a question about walking after a meal. If someone has weak digestion, would it be better to walk after a meal or to rest and let the blood flow to the stomach? I think it would be best to rest, but everywhere I turn, it seems the advice is the best thing to do after a meal is to help with digestion, is to walk. If so, how long should someone wait to walk after a meal to go for a walk without getting out of the relaxed PNS state? On episode 1639, you mentioned 10 to 20 minutes after a meal. Just checking if that still applies if you have weak digestion. Thanks again. Hope this makes sense. It makes perfect sense, Colleen. And yes, believe it or not, walking after a meal also helps to induce the parasympathetic nervous system. So you are absolutely correct in your assumption that you want to stay in the parasympathetic nervous system. And lying down on your left side is actually a way to help aid in digestion. So yes, if you are in a weakened state or just someone who's exhausted or whatever it might be, okay, lying 20 minutes on your left side after a meal can help with digestion. But my opinion, as long as your body's not too exhausted, go to walk for 10 to 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, fantastic. At a slow pace though, okay? So it's zone 1 cardio so that you don't start to move into the sympathetic nervous system. And zone 1 cardio just means for most people, 80 to 100 beats per minute. So you keep your heart rate below 100 beats per minute, and it's a calm walk. You're not sprinting. You'd be able to have an easy conversation with the person next to you. And that's absolutely amazing. It helps with what's called postprandial glucose. So that's how high your blood sugar spikes after a meal. And it aids in digestion. It actually doesn't take the blood flow away from the stomach, believe it or not. It helps with circulation, and it's calming to the body as long as you're not doing anything stressful like answering emails, right? But it's actually calming if you're listening to binaural beats or your favorite podcast or comedy or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's absolutely what I recommend. All right. Let's see. Let's get one more question here today. This one's from Allie. Allie says, hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm currently in the process of becoming an IHP level 1 and level 2 certified, and I'm so grateful for all the resources and education you provide through these courses. After learning about all the conditions and disorders we are able to help with diet, nutrition, supplementation, lifestyle changes, I was wondering if you have done any research on narcolepsy and natural alternatives that could help. I'm 25 years old, was diagnosed with narcolepsy when I was 20. I'm on the highest dosage of stimulants you can be just to get through the day feeling normal. I'm terrified of the long-term effects this will have on myself and others with narcolepsy. Thanks in advance for even answering this question. Have a wonderful rest of your week. You too, Allie. Have a wonderful rest of your week or weekend if you're listening to this live. So here's what I want to share with you. Always go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and then just type in sleep disorder or type in narcolepsy. Type in whatever you think the keyword would be, just one at a time, and see if there's a podcast there, because there are podcasts on narcolepsy. So again, I don't mind answering the question. I really don't. Like, this is what I love to do. So there's no issue there. And we have another podcast on narcolepsy. So there was no problem at all. Okay. So I've answered this. And what I would say is this: I want to look at not narcolepsy as a disease, because as being a part of IHP 1 and 2, to us, doesn't matter what the disease name is. Rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis. All I'm asking is, what is the etymology, or better yet, the pathophysiology, right? And we don't need to know the etymology of how the word came about here, but the pathophysiology of how did the disease come about. So what we really care about, what are the underlying root causes? And as an IHP health coach, there's toxicities and there's deficiencies. And so sometimes with narcolepsy, there's some toxicities, but really we're moving more towards deficiencies. And so for you, I'd run the big 5, but I would also run the mind and mood neurotransmitter test, because I would like to see, do you have low norepinephrine? Now, you'd have to be off the stimulants for this, okay? So I can't give you medical advice. You'd have to work with your medical doctors, okay? So I would want to see on your stress hormone metabolism, cortisol, but on your neurotransmitter, I'd want to see dopamine. I would want to see, mainly I'd want to see dopamine, and I'd want to see norepinephrine. There's a few others, but those are excitatory neurotransmitters. And if yours were low, then I would want to give you more of the precursors to naturally increase excitatory neurotransmitters, which are the energy, the drive, the ambition, the get up and go neurotransmitters, right? So I'd want to make sure that your pathways are open and nothing is lacking there. And you can actually run that right away. So, hopefully that was helpful. That is exactly where we'd start. And then we'd begin to customize a plan for you. Anybody with narcolepsy, right away, we're looking at making sure there's enough activated B vitamins, enough calcium in the diet. We're using our daily nutritional support. We're using our omega-3s. We're using, like I said, the calcium in there. We might use adrenal energy in the beginning. So we're doing all of the things to be able to improve the diurnal rhythm. Waking during the day, 7 to 7, and then calming the body at night, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we're actually rebuilding the natural circadian rhythm and diurnal rhythm of the body through light exposure, light boxes in the morning or morning sun, and then at night, blue blockers. And so we're literally recreating the circadian rhythm. I would love you to reread that chapter in the rain barrel effect, and you'll see the difference with cortisol and melatonin. And I would be helping to rebalance that, with you. So that's what it's all about. I appreciate everybody writing in here today. I thank you. I really can't thank you enough, especially for sharing the show. That's what it's all about. The show, free every day. The goal is we teach a little, we learn a little, we share a little with others, and then over time, we build up this repertoire, this archive of information, you and I, that we can then continue to draw upon and share with others. So thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow answering more of our Cabral House Calls. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.